Hey everyone! Welcome to my channel Manhwa Mantra. I noticed that a lot of you watch my videos but haven't subscribed yet. If you enjoy the content, please hit that subscribe button. It really motivates me to keep creating more amazing videos for you all. Let's get started! The story begins on a grim battlefield, where the grand estate of a noble family lies in ruins. The air is thick with the stench of blood and smoke. Soldiers clad in gleaming armor are being slaughtered mercilessly in the estate's yard. Some are burned alive, their agonized screams echoing into the chaos. One by one they fall, their lifeless bodies piling up like discarded dolls. Even those who surrender are shown no mercy, their pleas for life silenced with cold steel. Amidst this horrifying scene, two swords clash violently. The sound of metal meeting metal rings out as two men engage in a fierce battle. One, dressed in a black hood, swings his sword down with brutal force. The other, defiant and furious, blocks the strike with everything he has left. This is the story of the Ragnar clan, a grand ducal family tasked with guarding the empire's northernmost frontier. Known as the Great Northern Wall, their legacy spans over a millennium, built upon a unique and extraordinary bloodline. It is said that the Ragnar family carries the blood of dragons, a lineage that grants them exceptional magical prowess, unparalleled stamina, extraordinary physical endurance, and a natural aptitude for swordsmanship. But as fate would have it, not all born of the Ragnar bloodline share this gift. The man currently locked in a desperate fight is an exception, a glaring anomaly in this otherwise extraordinary lineage. As the man struggles to hold his ground, his opponent lands a devastating blow, slashing across his chest. He collapses to the ground, blood pouring from the wound as his strength fades. The robed figure looms over him, a smirk of disdain playing on his lips. "Even in the end, you never learn," the man says coldly. "There are things you simply can't do no matter how hard you try. People call that having no talent." The fallen man grimaces, managing to rasp out, "What do you mean by that?" His opponent, unbothered by the question, slowly removes his hood, revealing his face. "Not inheriting talent despite being of the Ragnar lineage, I would be bitter too. Young Master Theo," he sneers. Theo's eyes widen in shock. "Randon, why are you—" His voice trembles with disbelief. Randon smirks, his tone dripping with mockery. "Watching you train tirelessly every day, knowing full well you'd never achieve anything, it was almost pitiful. Hard work alone will never bridge the gap talent creates. The nickname Imbecile of Ragnar suits you perfectly. You should have stayed hidden, Theo. It would have been less embarrassing." Theo's body shakes with anger as he glares at Randon. "You approached me under the guise of being my sword instructor. You taught me useless techniques, only to betray me and sell out the Rose Palace to our enemies." His voice cracks with rage and despair. Before he can finish, Randon swiftly slices off Theo's arm. Theo screams in agony, the pain unbearable. Randon grabs Theo by the head, forcing him to look at the carnage around them. "This is all because of you," he says coldly. "Look, the Rose Palace burns, your family is slaughtered, and even your mother lies lifeless before your eyes. This is the fate of the weakest in the Ragnar clan. Strength is everything, and you have none." Theo's despair turns to fury. He grabs his blade with his remaining hand, charging at Randon in a desperate scream. But before he can strike, another sword pierces his chest. His vision blurs as he collapses to the ground. A voice calls out to Randon, urging him to finish it. Randon sighs, remarking, "I was just reminiscing. I'm almost done." As Theo lies dying, he wonders if this is truly the end. His life flashes before him, a life of endless effort with no results. He laments his lack of talent, questioning what could have been if he'd been gifted like the rest of his family. His final thought is one of deep regret as flames consume him. But then something impossible happens. A glowing window appears before him, illuminating the darkness. Words materialize on the screen. Ragnar's talent has activated. Regression point confirmed. Theo gasps, his consciousness returning as he opens his eyes. He's no longer in the inferno of the Rose Palace. Instead, he's holding a wooden sword, staring at a familiar face. Randon, alive and well, is standing before him, suggesting they end the lesson for the day. Theo freezes, his mind reeling. "What is this?" he thinks. "I just died. How am I back here?" His shock deepens as Randon speaks again, oblivious to Theo's confusion. You seem distracted today, Rendon remarks casually. Before Theo can process what's happening, another glowing window appears before him. It's a system notification instructing him to punch Rendon. Theo stares at the window, then at Rendon, disbelief etched on his face. This can't be real, he mutters. Deciding he has nothing to lose, Theo drops his sword and punches Rendon square in the face. But the punch barely phases Rendon, who looks more annoyed than hurt. Theo mutters, "Even in a dream, I'm this weak?" Frustrated, he picks up his wooden sword and strikes Rendon, knocking him back slightly. Rendon studies Theo's outburst with a calm demeanor. With the awakening ceremony approaching, I imagine it's frustrating to see no progress despite all your effort, he says, his tone condescending. Theo flinches at the mention of the ceremony, but stays silent as Rendon continues lecturing him about controlling his emotions and relying on his sword rather than his fists. With that, Rendon walks away, leaving Theo alone in a whirlwind of emotions. The other trainees mock Theo mercilessly, laughing at his audacity to strike his master. They ridicule his lack of talent, questioning how someone so incompetent could belong to the prestigious Ragnar clan. Theo kneels on the ground, clutching a handful of dirt as the pain of their words sinks in. But then a chilling realization dawns on him. "This isn't a memory," he whispers. This is real." A cold shiver runs down his spine as he pieces it together. The awakening ceremony is still 10 years away. He's back to his 17-year-old self. Before he can dwell on it further, the system window reappears, congratulating him for completing the tutorial quest. It asks if he'd like to receive his reward. Trembling, Theo hesitates before raising his hand and selecting yes. A surge of power floods his body. The sensation is overwhelming, as if centuries of his ancestors' strength are pouring into him. The system informs him that his stats will now grow at an extraordinary rate. Theo, overwhelmed by the bright light from the activation of his reward, wonders what is happening. The window reveals that a new quest has started. The scene shifts to the Rose Palace, still standing in all its glory. A figure sets down a teacup, commenting on the situation. We see Rendon speaking to someone, mentioning that it's rare to see someone so talentless. Rendon, whose full name is Rendon Harvey, explains that this is why he is here, to be a true teacher. He vows to train Theo for the upcoming awakening ceremony, with only 5 months remaining. The woman he is speaking to is none other than Theo's mother, Cecilia Ragnar, the Lady of the Rose Palace. She hands Rendon a bag of money, requesting that he give Theo more attention. Rendon assures her that he will teach Theo day and night, though inwardly he laughs, knowing that he has no intention of doing so. The story continues as Rendon muses over Theo's lack of talent. He scornfully remarks that both Theo and his mother were doomed to failure, calling her a concubine and implying that, like mother, like son, there is no future for their bloodline. Rendon sneers at the money he's received, thinking it's exceptional pay for betraying Theo. After all, he now holds the prestigious title of tutor to the Ragnar clan's direct line, and for feeding information about Theo and stunting his growth, someone has guaranteed Rendon's own future. In his eyes, Theo, the imbecile of Ragnar, is nothing more than a stepping stone to his own success. As Rendon contemplates his windfall, he suddenly notices Theo sprinting down the hallway, not even sparing him a glance. Annoyed, Rendon clicks his tongue and shouts after Theo, calling him a loser. But Theo is too focused, his heart racing with excitement as he rushes toward his mother, bursting into her room. He throws his arms around her and calls out her name. Surprised, Cecilia asks if he's tired from his training, but is taken aback by the sudden embrace. Theo, overwhelmed with emotion, begins to cry. Realizing that he's truly back 10 years in the past, memories of his mother's lifeless body flood his mind, along with the heavy realization of his failure at being talentless in his previous life. But now, he's determined to change the future. Tears of joy stream down his face as he clings to his mother, resolved to grow stronger and change his fate. He explains to himself that though he's currently weak and without status, if the mysterious status window he encountered is real, he has a chance to grow. He vows to become powerful enough to hold his ground in the looming succession, war and strong enough to exact revenge on Rendon. The next quest from the status window appears, train his body to the limit. Currently, it is at 0%. That night, Theo is seen running furiously through the training grounds, determined to get stronger. He burns with the desire to defeat Rondome, but he knows that with his current weak body, that goal is far off. He recalls his previous life in the intelligence agency, where he had worked with Black Ops, though he was part of the information team due to his lack of combat ability. Now, the information he gathered will serve him well. He recalls a potion from his past, the Bloody Sword Emperor's elixir and its secret manual, understanding its potential to greatly enhance his body. All the extreme training he had given up on before is now achievable, thanks to the activation of Ragnar's talent. A pop-up status window shows 27% training completed. As he continues to run, the other trainees notice and comment. Was he always that fit? Surprised by his sudden stamina, Theo, pushing harder than ever before, thinks, "Then I can become powerful this time." The status window shows he is now 65% of the way to completing his goal. Days pass, and Theo shows no sign of slowing down, training tirelessly day and night. Evelyn, the manager of the training ground, watches him with curiosity. She yawns, wondering how Theo ever earned the nickname Imbecile of Ragnar, when he's clearly showing immense drive and stamina. After days of ceaseless training, Theo is now at 97%, his eyes burning with determination, but his body nearing its limit. We flash back to the previous night when Theo had rested at 90% progress, only to find that the percentage had decreased. I never expected the percentage to decrease just because I rested a little, he thinks. This meant he couldn't afford to rest. He had to push himself to the absolute limit. With this realization, Theo trained relentlessly for 2 straight days, without a single break. With each swing of his sword and each lap around the training ground, he gritted his teeth and pushed himself further, determined not to stop until the task was complete. Just a bit more until I can't breathe anymore, he tells himself. At last, as he teeters on the brink of collapse, the percentage ticks from 99 to 100. Theo feels an overwhelming sense of relief as the status window appears, congratulating him for completing this second tutorial quest. As a reward, he has been granted a dragon's heart, and for completing the quest so quickly, he receives an additional bonus, 10 years worth of magical power from his past life. Completely exhausted, Theo falls to the ground, barely able to move. The status window asks if he would like to receive his rewards now. With trembling hands, Theo clicks yes. The rewards flood into him, a brilliant blue aura emanating from his body as he lies on the floor. Evelyn, who is still watching from a distance, is stunned by the sight, feeling the shock waves of energy radiating from Theo. After some time, Theo wakes up in a bed, disoriented. He looks around, wondering where he is, when Evelyn walks in, telling him not to worry. She explains that he is in the break room of training ground number 4. Even a Ragnar, she notes, would collapse if they pushed themselves as hard as Theo had. She reintroduces herself, noting that he lost consciousness while training alone that morning, so she moved him here to rest. Theo, still tired but grateful, thanks her. However, Evelyn's curiosity hasn't faded. She offers him a drink and then drops a bombshell. She asks if he knows that within the Ragnar clan, opening one's mana hall before the awakening ceremony is strictly forbidden. Theo calmly acknowledges this and drinks, but Evelyn presses further, reminding him of the consequences for breaking this rule. She then asks him directly if he knows what happens when someone opens their mana hall prematurely. Theo is startled, unsure of where she's going with this, and asks why she's asking. Evelyn then reveals that just before he lost consciousness, a mana wave had occurred that was consistent with the opening of a mana hall. Theo's eyes widen in surprise. Her tone sharpens as she demands to know if he really opened it. Theo nervously tries to play it off, insisting that if he had opened his mana hall, he wouldn't still be alive. But he begins to sweat, recalling the dragon's heart he received as a reward.